I'm Callista.
And I'm Teresa, and this is Terrifyingly Typical True Crime.
Few artists are famous enough to go by a single name. Prince, Madonna, Cher. One such Grammy Award winning female artist who became that well known was Selena. We're finishing our theme on when celebrity fandom turns to murder with the 1995 murder of Selena Quintanilla.
On the morning of March 31st, 1995, less than a month before Selena Quintanilla's 24th birthday, 34-year-old Yolanda Saldívar was with the singer in her room at the Days Inn in Corpus Christi, Texas. Yolanda had previously created Selena's fan club and later managed her boutique stores called Selena, etc. But she had since been fired for embezzling and was now in possession of financial records Selena had repeatedly tried to get back. Once Selena was in Yolanda's room, she did finally get her hands on all the financial documents. However, as Selena was heading for the door, Yolanda pulled out a 5-shot 38 caliber revolver and shot Selena underneath her right shoulder. The hollow point bullet tore through Selena's skin and hit the veins in her lungs as well as an artery in her collarbone.
A bleeding Selena managed to get out of room 158, dropping her bag just outside of the door in her haste. But Yolanda came running out after the screaming singer. With the weapon still in her hand, she aimed it at Selena and called her a bitch as Selena raced away. In spite of her serious wound, Selena got herself to the lobby. The desk clerk watched while blood dripped in her wake as she cried for help. Numerous witnesses saw Yolanda coming after Selena with a gun and heard Selena pleading for them to lock the door to prevent her attacker from following her in.
God, she must have been terrified.
Without a doubt. But even as Selena fell to the floor, she managed to give both Yolanda's name and her room number, using her final words to ensure that no one was in doubt about who the shooter had been. After the manager called 911 about the attack at 11:50 a.m., an ambulance showed up in less than 2 minutes. Despite their quick arrival, Selena was no longer breathing, and paramedics began CPR. As Selena was hurried to the hospital, gauze was pressed against her wounds to staunch the bleeding.
Tragically, Selena was already brain dead due to severe internal bleeding when she reached the emergency room of Corpus Christi Memorial Hospital. Nonetheless, she received blood transfusions, we'll circle back to this later on, and an open heart massage in an attempt to get her heart beating again. A breathing tube was inserted into her throat, and a clamp was also used on the artery in her collarbone. In spite of all of these efforts, her injuries were too severe. According to the cardiac surgeon called to Selena's side, her artery was almost completely severed. So it was unsurprising, but no less heartbreaking, that while in emergency surgery, Selena died from cardiac arrest and massive blood loss. Almost an hour after her arrival, her time of death was called at 1:05 p.m. What led up to the internationally famous singer's death? Why did Yolanda, a formerly devoted fan, kill Selena? To find out, let's go back to the beginning.
Marcella and Abraham Quintanilla Jr. welcomed their third child, Selena Quintanilla, on April 16, 1971, in Lake Jackson, Texas. Marcella Ophelia Zamora had met Abraham in Tacoma, Washington when he was living at the McChord Air Force Base, and they were married on June 8, 1963. Their son, Abraham Isaac A.B. Quintanilla III, was born 6 months after the wedding on December 13, 1963, and their daughter Suzette joined the family on June 29, 1967. As was hardly atypical at the time, Marcella stayed at home to take care of their children. Abraham had dreamed of performing long before he met his wife and started a family. In fact, he dropped out of high school in Corpus Christi to become a professional singer. After hearing Los Dinos, which translates to the boys, play at a high school dance, he decided to join the band. And everything seemed to line up to turn that dream into a reality. Following the departure of one lead vocalist, Abraham auditioned and became the group's third vocalist. The 11-member band played all over Texas between 1957 and 1971, made 13 albums, and had a hit with their 1959 single, So Hard to Tell. Abraham got to know producers and promoters as they released albums, got airtime on the radio, and toured around the US. Even after he served in the Air Force from 1961 to 1963, then worked cooking at Denny's, he kept coming back to his love of music.
Indeed, that love was so strong that it sometimes rivaled the one he had for his family. One example of this conflict occurred while he was on a 3-week tour, and Marcella was staying with her parents in Wapato, Washington. Sorry if I said that wrong, with AB, who was a toddler at the time. After she called to ask her husband to choose his young family over performing, Abraham made the 22-hour drive from Phoenix to Wapato. Do you think that's how I think it's Wapato. Instead of joining his wife and child, though, he took his young son and left Marcella. Marcella had no choice but to return home with them, never issuing the same ultimatum again.
So I have so much sympathy for Selena's entire family, but I have to say, this anecdote didn't make me love her father. Because instead of explaining that his career was important to him or vowing to pursue his passion while spending more time with his family, he just took their son to force Marcella's hand.
Yeah, that was a super shit thing to do. And I understand the time period they're in. But if it wasn't clear before, it certainly made it clear by his actions that he was the one in control.
100%.
In spite of tumultuous times like these, the family continued to grow. And in 1969, when the Quintanilla, which by the point included Suzette, moved to Lake Jackson from the coastal border city of Corpus Christi, Abraham did leave the band and began operating forklifts at Dow Chemical. Los Dinos would continue recording and performing without him until they eventually split up in 1974.
Not long after Abraham's career change, Marcella became pregnant for the third time. But that wasn't what she was first led to believe. When she became pregnant with Selena in 1971, her growing abdomen was initially thought to be a tumor by a doctor who was eager to operate. Luckily, the family went to another, arguably better, medical professional before Marcella went under the knife.
I mean, that's terrifying. They did have pregnancy tests back then, and she was 27. It's not like she was old and pregnancy, should have been ruled out.
Yeah, not really sure why that was the assumption. The surprises didn't end there, though. Marcella had been convinced she was having a boy, so when she gave birth to a girl, Marcella didn't have a name ready for her new daughter. After speaking to the mother in the adjoining hospital room, she agreed to take the name the other woman couldn't use for her newborn son, one that paid homage to the Greek goddess of the moon, Selene.
I love that.
Me too. Even at a young age, Selena's musical talent started showing itself. Given his passion for music, Abraham supported Selena's singing ambitions from the age of 6 and let her perform in front of an audience for the first time by the age of 9. Although Selena was only fluent in English, Abraham had her sing in Spanish to gain traction in the Latino community. Impressively, she first tackled the lyrics phonetically, but later became bilingual,
I mean, that's really impressive.
right?
As for her formal education, Selena started at Orrin B. Roberts Elementary School in Lake Jackson. But when the family moved to Corpus Christi, Texas, after losing both their home and restaurant in 1981, she switched to West Osis Junior High School. Despite these losses, the family rallied, and by 1981, Abraham, Selena, Suzette, and AB had officially become a band. Abraham managed it, Suzanne played the drums, and AB played bass guitar. They originally were also called Los Dinos, but the name was later changed to Selena y Los Dinos since Selena was fronting the band. Having informally performed at Abraham's Mexican restaurant, Papayos? How do you say that?
I think it's Papagayos.
Oh, that's better. I like that. When it was still in business, the band moved on to playing at clubs, fairs, quinceaneras, and weddings around South Texas. Their signature Tejano sound blended styles from Mexico and the US as a mix of pop, Tex-Mex, and polka. Once in Corpus Christi, the family band performed in city nightclubs and country dance halls. Unfortunately, even at this young age, Selena was no stranger to discrimination, as dance hall promoters didn't believe she would ever be a major draw compared to the many male Tejanos musicians. And they were, of course, wrong.
In spite of some doubting Selena, after the band recorded with Barrio Boys, a Puerto Rican group, in the mid 1980s, they started gaining cross national popularity. In 1986, fans from Matamoros, Mexico began to take notice, and they, along with other Tejano artists, convinced many in Mexico to give the Tejano genre a chance. Selena y los Dinos went on to record 7 albums, many with independent labels. Their last album, Dulce Amor, written by her brother AB and released in 1988, catapulted Selena to Latin music stardom. After they performed in New York in 1994, their success only grew, and they became the first Tejano band in history to earn a place on the Billboard Latin Top 200 for a best selling album. Over the years, more than 1.5 million of their albums were purchased before Selena's death in 1995.
Wow, go them.
I always think of Selena's solo career, so it was interesting to learn about the band's success too.
True.
Speaking of Selena's solo career, even as she continued playing with the band, it started to take off. When she was only 15, she was named Female Vocalist of the Year at the Tejano Music Awards. The next year, 1987, saw her bring that award along with others such as Song of the Year and Female Entertainer of the Year home too. This streak of success went on for 9 years, and in 1996, the year after her murder, she was given almost every single award offered at the ceremony.
One notable person watching Selena's performance at the 1989 Tejano Music Awards ceremony who took Selena's career to the next level was Jose Behar. Having recently created the Latin division of EMI Records, he signed Selena and her debut album came out later that year. In the next 4 years, Selena dropped one live album and 5 studio albums. Her popularity only grew, and she, along with Laura Canales, was named the Queen of Tejano Music, or La Reina de la Onda Tejana. To accommodate her skyrocketing career, Selena went to high school at the American School, which is a nonprofit educational institution that several artists have gone to because of the distance learning style offered. In 1989, the year her debut album came out, also marked the year that Selena graduated. As she became recognizable on her own, Selena's family continued working with and supporting her. AB, for instance, produced and wrote the majority of Selena's songs. After gaining experience with his sister, he would later use his talent to launch 2 of his own bands, the Cumbia Kings and Cumbia All Stars.
Just as she never drifted away from her family, Selena never shied away from the Texas Mexican border culture in which she grew up. But, as we've already seen, like the women who came before her, she was discriminated against as one of the few female singers popularizing Tejano music. Despite and because of this, she once said, "There's a lot of men in this business. If you can't speak for yourself, they are going to run you down every which way." And Selena certainly could speak for herself to advance her career, taking on lucrative deals like becoming Coca Cola's 1989 spokesperson. They had chosen her because of her popularity with Latin audiences, and this decision marked the first time an advertiser went after a certain demographic. Selena starred in their ads and signed a promotional tour agreement with them. But this wasn't her only notable contract. In addition to signing with Southwestern Bell and AT&T, she signed a six-figure deal with Depp Corporation. However, it was her six-figure contract with EMI Latin that gave her millionaire status.
Amidst the positive changes in her professional life, Selena's personal life was also due for a shift because by 1990, Christopher Perez was the lead guitarist of Selena y los Dinos. Chris was from San Antonio, Texas, and his early desire to be a rock star saw him attempting to play any instrument he could get his hands on, such as the trumpet, French horn, and keys. When he was 15, he used the money he got from his McDonald's job to purchase an electric guitar and played his first gig by the age of 17 in a Tejano band, known in the local music scene. After Chris auditioned to be the guitarist for Selena Lostinos, AB decided to take him on. A fan of Selena's before working with her, Chris had previously watched the band play in San Antonio. Yet, in spite of her fame, the naturally shy Chris instantly felt comfortable around Selena. Unsurprisingly, their relationship didn't remain strictly professional for long. It turned a corner when the whole band traveled to Acapulco, Mexico, a perk of Selena's work with Coca-Cola. Having sat together at dinner during the trip, their romantic feelings grew on the journey back to the States when Chris held Selena's hand throughout the turbulent flight. But they wouldn't confess how they truly felt until they were on tour in Laredo, Texas.
Once they did, though, they knew Abraham, who was still Selena's manager, wouldn't be happy to hear of their relationship. So they began secretly dating in 1990. But the secret didn't keep for long. Suzette soon found out about her sister's relationship and told their father.
Petty much? It's not like she was 14.
I have to say that I also think part of it was that everyone was used to running every decision past Abraham, so it might have been less about sibling rivalry and more about filial duty. Once he found out, Abraham kicked Chris off the tour bus as a way to keep him from Selena. But when the relationship continued, he kicked Chris out of the band, reportedly labeling him a cancer to the family.
Way to be a father and a manager, but, not really thinking about what everybody wants. I mean, poor Selena and Chris. Maybe, think about your daughter's happiness and not just about the business of the band.
Yeah, no one can deny that he had a strong, arguably overblown reaction, but she was so young that I can imagine a scenario where he was worried she would sacrifice her career for a short term relationship, but she should have been the one to have the ultimate say. I mean, she was an adult and it was her life.
Agree.
And Selena was going to live her life on her own terms because 20-year-old Selena and 22-year-old Chris didn't accept their forced separation. Instead, they eloped in a Nueces courthouse in Texas on April 2nd, 1992, with Chris wearing a t shirt and jeans for the brief ceremony between the young, love struck musicians.
I mean, they are young, but good for them.
Yeah, maybe this is a misperception, but I tend to find eloping romantic because it goes along with the whole forbidden love, us against the world trope.
True.
And their bet that Abraham would feel differently after they were married paid off. Yet, even though Abraham let Chris back into the fold, working together in the band all day, every day, proved difficult. The couple got through this rough patch, though, and planned to mark their fifth wedding anniversary with the official ceremony they never had, an anniversary they would never get to celebrate.
But before Selena's young life came to a violent end, she was going to make her mark on the music world. In 1992, the year she married Chris, she became the first Tejana artist to have over 300,000 copies of her album Entre Me Mundo purchased. She then made the move to SBK Records the following year, planning to make an album solely in English. This project later transformed into the bilingual album named Dreaming of You. It wasn't until around 1994 that Selena began to be noticed by those outside of the Tejano sphere when she had an interview with the Los Angeles Times and was included on Texas Monthly's list of 20 influential Texans. Selena's album from the prior year, Selena Live, even won her the 1994 Grammy for Best Mexican American Album. This win marked the first time a female Tejano artist had been given the title. Selena y Los Dinos also received awards in 4 different categories from Los Nuestros billboards in both 1993 and 1995.
Between touring around North and South America, Selena came out with Amor Prohibido in 1994, and it went gold. I initially assumed that the title of Forbidden Love was connected to her relationship with Chris and Abraham's disapproval, especially because Chris was behind the scenes in Joshua Tree National Park throughout the music video for the album's title track. And in what would become her most iconic video, Selena ignored her many wardrobe options to sport Chris's tied red button down. But I was wrong because Selena later said in interviews that the song was for her grandmother. Her grandmother had her own forbidden love when she worked as the maid for an upper class family and started a relationship with their son. Because of her job, the elitist family disapproved of their son's partner. Due to these cinematic circumstances, Selena compared the relationship to a telenovela, which is kind of great.
It is.
Buoyed by Going Gold and eager to branch out, Selena created Selena Etc. in 1994 by founding two boutiques that doubled as salons in Corpus Christi and San Antonio that carried the clothing line she had started 2 years earlier. That same year, she decided to attend Pacific Western University as a business administration major via distance learning. Inspired to continue her own education, she encouraged students to focus on their studies to achieve their dreams, as with videos like Selena Agrees and My Music.
I'm just really impressed with her and what she accomplished at such a really young age.
I know it's easy to forget that she accomplished all of this by the age of 23.
I mean, it's really impressive.
Mhm.
Selena made a point of trying to help others. She worked with the Texas Prevention Partnership to create anti drug videos and participated in the DARE, our drug abuse resistance education program, for the same purpose. She became involved with the Coastal Bend AIDS Foundation, and in 1993, she recorded a public service announcement for domestic violence survivors in service of the Houston Area Women's Center. She was no less generous with fans. Her mother, Marcella, remembered a girl gushing to Selena about how much she liked her boots, and Selena giving them to the fan she had just met. As Selena used her fame for good, her star continued to rise. Having previously gone on the Johnny Canales show around the age of 12, she later went on other Latin American shows, such as the soap opera Dos Mujeres, Un Camino. Then she graduated from the small to the big screen when she got a small part singing mariachi in the 1995 movie Don Juan DeMarco with Johnny Depp. Selena had no idea that when she returned to the Houston Astrodome for the third time to another 60,000 strong crowd on February 26, 1995, the performance would turn out to be her last. She greeted the crowd of fans at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo that outnumbered those of both George Strait and Reba McEntire, with the exception that she had many more shows ahead of her. Those are really big names in country music, and I would assume, especially in Houston, that they were a big draw. So go, girl. I need another word for impressive.
It's true, her success really was remarkable. Both her career and personal life were on an upward trajectory in the lead up to her murder. In the midst of traveling to LA for the Grammy Awards on March 1st, 1995, for her nomination for Best Mexican American Performance, she was getting ready to build a house with Chris for their future children on the 10 acres they had bought in Corpus Christi. A move they were looking forward to since they were currently feeling a bit closed in, living right beside her parents and only one home away from AB and his wife. In spite of having her worth estimated at $5 million by a Hispanic magazine in 1994, she was currently living in the same working class Molina neighborhood from her childhood in Corpus Christi. But a woman named Yolanda Saldívar was about to take it all away from her. 4 years earlier, after seeing Selena perform in concert, then 30-year-old Yolanda Saldívar, a newly licensed registered nurse, called Abraham about starting a Selena fan club in 1991. Yolanda had focused solely on her studies while in college, but once she became licensed, she decided to let loose by creating the fan club. She soon became president of the Selena fan club. It began in San Antonio, but later swelled to include more than 1,500 members in the 4 years she was at its helm. In this trusted position, she became friends with the Quintanilla family, often being invited to come to their house for a meal or gathering. Yolanda said that she and Selena grew close. She claimed that Selena would call her mom while talking on the phone, since she treated her as a daughter. The Quintanillas, for their part, have no memory of this nickname, and I know who I believe.
Yeah, me too. Nonetheless, this friendship had resulted in Yolanda transitioning from fan club president to the manager of both Selena etc. boutiques. She was even entrusted with a key to Selena and Chris's house and with managing Selena's business checking accounts, which is quite the upward trajectory.
That it is.
When 1995 rolled around, though, both stores were having financial difficulties, yet Selena still planned to start her own clothing factory located in Monterrey, Mexico, along with two more boutique salons in Puerto Rico and Monterrey. But after fan club members told Abraham about paying their membership fees but not receiving the promised merchandise, and employees voiced their suspicions about Yolanda stealing money from the San Antonio boutique, he was sure Yolanda was embezzling. He would be proven right when it was later revealed that Yolanda had stolen more than $30,000. And it amazes me when people pull this kind of crap, stealing from your work, both the boutiques and the fan club. Do you really think you aren't going to get caught? 30,000 is a lot of money, incidentally, because I always have to look that up. That's just under 63,000 today.
I would think that with something like embezzling, you do it over a period of time. So you start to think, after not having been caught the first few times, that your luck is going to last. You'd have to assume there's a bit of narcissism involved too.
I'm sure there is. And maybe when you begin, you think, oh, just a little bit here and a little bit there. And then you don't get caught and you're like, yeah, I'm going to take more. This is the life.
This is way better than having a job.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Abraham, Suzette, and Selena went to Yolanda in early March 1995 to confront her about taking money from both the fan club and Selena, etc. Yolanda said she couldn't explain it, and Abraham fired Yolanda immediately. Selena couldn't cut Yolanda out of her life yet, though.
Having previously given Yolanda information about the financial accounts, once Selena realized that some financial paperwork was unaccounted for, she knew Yolanda must have it. So she met with her again around March 15th to get it back. And Yolanda did give it back. Some of it, at least. When she got into Selena's car, she returned a few of the documents. Then she revealed the wooden-handled .38 caliber revolver she had stowed away in her purse. Selena simply told Yolanda that she should take the gun back to where she'd bought it. I think I probably would have left from the car and taken off running, so kudos to Selena for keeping her cool. Shockingly, Yolanda did just that. Despite having just bought the weapon on March 11th and getting it 2 days later after passing a background check, she returned the firearm to the store.
Which is amazing. I too would have hurriedly vacated the car. She was so decent, even though Yolanda had stolen a substantial amount of money from her, she probably never thought that Yolanda would use a gun on her.
I'm sure she didn't. It's not as if she had attacked her before.
That's true. With Yolanda's criminality coming to the surface 2 weeks before Selena's murder, she and Chris took Yolanda off of her accounts because they no longer trusted her. But beyond that, Selena carried on with her career. She was in the middle of recording a new album, the bilingual Dreaming of You. About a week before her death, she left the Corpus Christi studio to record in Tennessee with Keith Thomas, a producer and songwriter, on the song I Could Fall in Love. Then, on March 30th, Yolanda reached out to Selena to tell her she would give her the remaining financial records. Ignoring Yolanda's instructions to come by herself, Chris went with Selena to the Corpus Christi Days Inn at 901 Navigation Boulevard, at which Yolanda was staying. Yet again, Yolanda did not give Selena all of the paperwork, but Selena left Yolanda's hotel alive and went home to spend an evening with Chris and his father. Unbeknownst to Selena, Yolanda had gone back to the gun store on March 26th and bought the same 38 caliber weapon once more.
Perhaps realizing she would need to come up with a new plan to get Selena on her own, a now armed Yolanda told Selena that she had been raped by two men on her trip to Monterrey, Mexico. So on the morning of March 31st, Selena left Chris asleep at home and took her to Corpus Christi's Doctors Regional Medical Center. Once there, Yolanda then gave a completely different account of the assault, now changing the details about how much she had bled afterwards.
This really pisses me off. I guess she was just telling Selena this to get her alone. However, people that lie about sexual assault just add fuel to the fire for people that don't want to believe women.
Preach, because it's the very few women who lie whose cases are highlighted, not the many who bravely come forward to tell the truth and never get justice. Because Yolanda didn't live in Corpus Christi and because the alleged rape happened in Mexico, the hospital didn't give Yolanda a full exam.
Does that make sense? I get she wasn't really raped, but if you go to a hospital, I don't care where the freaking assault happened, do the damn rape kit.
Too right. So she and Selena went back to the day's inn. Selena was upset with Yolanda and her shifting story, but still held out hope that she would finally get back all of the documents. As we all know, her hope that Yolanda would do the right thing would sadly prove to be misplaced. Because even though Selena did get all the records back, Yolanda used the repurchased weapon to shoot and kill her. Before we talk about Yolanda's version of events, let's revisit the blood transfusions. I remember that the first time I heard this case, it was said that Abraham, who was Jehovah's Witness, did not allow Selena to receive the blood transfusion that would have saved her life. I actually wrongly went into the research for this case, disliking Abraham because I partially blamed him for his daughter's death, but that just isn't true. The doctors who gave Selena this life saving treatment said in court that they had done so and that Abraham hadn't stopped them.
I feel bad that he had to deal with these horrific rumors after her death. I mean, do better, people.
Yeah.
Despite the treatment she received, as Selena bled out of the hospital, Yolanda, who said the gun had gone off by accident, became embroiled in a standoff with police in the Days Inn parking lot. She had locked herself in the pickup truck with the revolver and threatened suicide. The Corpus Christi Police Department's lead hostage negotiator, Larry Rucker Young, spoke to her on the phone for over 9 hours. All Yolanda wanted was to know how Selena, the woman she said was her best friend, was doing. When she finally handed herself over to the FBI and police,
And a huge round of applause to authorities for managing to de escalate the situation.
right? 9 hours, dang. She claimed she had shot Selena accidentally when the gun misfired. And that was the version of events she stuck to at trial. OMFG, really? How many times did it misfire?
It was just a really faulty weapon, apparently.
Ugh. Yolanda's defense attempted to present the narrative that Yolanda was so afraid of Abraham after he fired her that she planned to take her own life. They argued that Abraham was a controlling father who was living vicariously through his daughter, hoping to realize the dreams he couldn't achieve himself. They said he was unwilling to allow Selena to have a relationship with anyone who wasn't a family member, used to towing the line. I can buy the controlling behavior and living vicariously through his daughter, but that is a weak, weak argument.
Hmm. But with Suzette and AB standing by their father, after only 3 hours of deliberation, the jury in Harris County, Texas, found Yolanda Saldívar guilty of first degree murder on October 23rd, 1995.
Good.
Yeah. And I thought this was kind of poetic. State District Judge Jose Longoria had the 38 caliber revolver that Yolanda used to kill Selena dismantled in June 2002 and thrown into the Corpus Christi Bay. A chop saw was used to cut the 38 caliber Taurus revolver into around 50 small pieces. Among the safety glasses wearing observers, Abraham said nothing to reporters as he watched the murder weapon be destroyed alongside Suzette, his remaining daughter.
I love that. Good on Judge Longoria and the small satisfaction Abraham and Suzette must have felt witnessing that.
I'd like to think it was a tiny bit cathartic.
Yeah.
When Judge Jose Longoria had ordered the release of Selena's belongings to her family in May 2002, the murder weapon was first thought to be missing, but was later discovered in a box filled with office paraphernalia. While many argued for the revolver to be saved as a historical artifact, the judge wanted to give the Quintanillas closure and ensure no money could be made off the weapon. The sheriff's office typically had seized guns crushed at a salvage yard, but to avoid anyone attempting to get their hands on the famous weapon, it was decided that it would be deposited in the safe.
Seriously, what the fuck is wrong with people? It's not a historic artifact. I mean, it's the murder weapon. People are twisted. It never surprises me, honestly.
Mhm.
Once the revolver was in pieces, one saw blade having been broken in the process, they were put into a white plastic bucket and dropped into the Corpus Christi Bay. The remains of the murder weapon sank around 15 feet below the surface, where officials were sure that no one would be able to retrieve them. As for the murderer, Yolanda received a life sentence 3 days after the jury gave their decision on October 23rd, 1995. Held in a maximum security prison in Gatesville, Texas, formerly known as Mountain View Unit, but now called the Patrick L. O'Daniel Unit, Yolanda became eligible for parole in late March of this year after the designated 30 years had elapsed. Yolanda is now 64 years old and has consistently exhibited good behavior, according to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. She had the nerve to write to the Quintanillas asking them not to contest her parole. Really? Having gone back to claiming that she killed Selena accidentally and only intended to kill herself. Her goal was to convince the family that she is no longer the same person. And I just have to say, F you, Yolanda.
Seriously. Despite these efforts, the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles denied her application, fittingly on the 30th anniversary of Selena's murder. The three-member panel who considered the case decided that Yolanda's murder conviction made her a continued danger to the public and set her next review for March 2030. Reportedly, her life has been in danger throughout her incarceration because other inmates are eager to enact their revenge on Selena's murderer, which led to her being placed in protective custody. She has used this isolation to become a paralegal by getting an associate degree in criminal justice. In addition to filing civil rights complaints regarding mistreatment by the Texas prison system and creating petitions for other inmates, she has appealed her sentence several times. Interestingly, these appeals saw Yolanda changing her version of events. Her original story in 1995 was that she and Selena were arguing in motel room 158. Yolanda then lifted her gun to her head and said she planned to kill herself, apparently as a sign of her devotion to Selena. But when she moved the gun to indicate the exit, the gun went off and hit Selena.
However, she said something different 3 years later, in 1998. A 17-point appeal was filed, with some of these points being that prejudicial and irrelevant evidence was allowed. Both a mistrial and new trial were denied, and that certain jurors were not allowed to take part due to their race. At the time of this appeal, Yolanda's story shifted. She now said that while Selena was driving her to the Days Inn, she told Yolanda that Abraham had called her a lesbian and said that the documents Yolanda had retrieved from Monterey were incorrect. Yolanda then replied that she wanted to quit, and this argument, in which Yolanda kept insisting she no longer wanted to work for Selena, continued into her motel room. After Yolanda turned everything she had over to Selena, including bank files and a cell phone, Selena dumped a bag filled with bank records on her bed. In response, Yolanda opened her purse, removed the gun she had purchased for $250 in San Antonio, and shot Selena while she was on her way to the open door. This new narrative didn't help her, though, because both that appeal and another filed in 2019 claiming that a crucial black baseball cap and a pair of white shoes were withheld from the defense by the prosecution were denied.
Most recently, she's gone back to the accidental shooting story while trying to offer a new set of circumstances as an Oxygen True Crimes 2024 docuseries called Selena and Yolanda: The Secrets Between Them. And I'll be honest and admit I only read several reviews and watched clips from the series because it doesn't look like it actually presents any new evidence. But to be fair, I'll give a brief overview. The series gives Yolanda's perspective via interviews from prison, and it seems like it presents claims of missing evidence and unreliable witnesses, as well as allegations that Yolanda kept Selena's many secrets, such as that she was supposedly having an affair with a plastic surgeon living in Monterrey, Mexico, the location she planned to open her clothing factory, named Dr. Ricardo Martinez. Yolanda also said that she was threatened by Abraham and never stole any money. She explained that the checks she gave herself with money from Selena's business accounts were all legitimate. She claimed that Selena was having Yolanda buy things for her as a way to not get caught having an affair, and the checks were just Yolanda reimbursing herself for these purchases, which Selena knew all about. Based on everything I've seen, none of these claims are backed up with substantial evidence.
It's hardly shocking that Yolanda's family feature heavily in the docuseries as they try to show their relative in a positive light. Many of Selena's fans have not been shy in taking on the series, and neither have the. One more time, how do we say her last name?
Quintanillas,
Quintanillas. The family refused to have anything to do with the series, and Abraham said of Yolanda, "Everyone knows there's zero truth to anything that comes out of her mouth."
which is hard to disagree with.
Yeah, I'm with Abraham on this. In spite of her claim of innocence, many have come out about Yolanda's obsession with Selena and commented on the fact that her past apartment was a shrine to her. Martina Gomez, a designer who worked in the same office with Yolanda, talked about the mind game she would play by lying about what people had said. He explained how Yolanda sabotaged the outfits he was designing, recounting that on returning from New York, he found the hem ripped off of one recently finished item. Martin finally quit because of Yolanda's odd behavior. He said that when he quit 6 weeks before Selena's death, he told the singer to be careful in their final phone call. He later commented that, "I was very afraid of Yolanda, but I never thought she would hurt Selena. I never thought it would come to this."
And let me just add that I haven't seen any other sources corroborating Martin's story, so take it with a pinch of salt, but I think it accurately showcases Yolanda's obsession with Selena. Even if her apartment wasn't a shrine to her, you don't start a fan club for someone you're not obsessed with. As for why she killed Selena, I would agree with Carlos Valdez, who was the lead prosecutor in Yolanda's trial and is now a Nueces County District Judge. He believed that Yolanda decided to kill Selena because she was fired. He said she wouldn't exist if she didn't have Selena. And if she didn't work for Selena, she didn't want to work for anybody. Given the standoff after the shooting, it seemed like she planned a murder suicide a la Kevin James Loibel, who felt he couldn't live without Christina Grimmie. I think that she held on to the financial paperwork to force Selena to continue to keep in contact with her after Abraham fired her. And when she was going to give it all back on March 31st, her plan was to kill Selena and herself because she would no longer have a way of tethering Selena to her in life. That's my theory, anyway.
I mean, that seems the most plausible. But let's leave Yolanda and end by focusing on Selena. Having been seen as a female role model who was popularizing Latino music and culture not only in the US, but across the world, the public unreservedly mourned Selena's death. Along with Spanish radio and television programs airing tributes, People magazine released a commemorative issue, and both Dateline NBC and Entertainment Tonight came out with brief segments on the singer. That said, several memorials and vigils were held in both California and Texas, as these states reflected Selena's largest fan base. With many holding on to the belief that Selena was somehow still alive, the Quintanilla family decided to open the 6-foot, 6-inch long black steel casket at the Bayfront Plaza Convention Center in Texas as proof of her tragic death. That seems to me extreme and unnecessary, but you know how I feel about open caskets. Elvis is also not still alive.
Too true.
Over 50,000 fans came to see Selena one last time at the place she had performed in her signature bustier 7 months earlier. The majority of her fans paid their respects by kneeling, walking by her casket, or praying for the recently deceased singer.
Many of them had waited in line for hours. The line had reached the length of 7 football fields, and around 4,000 people walked by the casket every hour. Once inside, fans were permitted to sign their names in the 8 registries among the flowers on a banquet table. Over 200 flower arrangements and floral wreaths stood around the table and led the way to the casket, including 5,000 white roses delivered from Holland the previous evening. But among the respectful fans were those taking pictures of the singer's lifeless body, adding to the family's grief when they later shared them.
Seriously, the gall of some people. You aren't a fan. You are scum.
hmm They managed this in spite of the security guards who had retrieved over a dozen rolls of film from those who had snuck past the front door security check with the forbidden camera. Perhaps those who were escorted from the convention center had friends among the 200 strong crowd that became hostile and necessitated a police response at 11 that evening when the venue had closed and they weren't allowed to see the singer. Can I just say, people are always putting themselves first rather than thinking of the effects of their actions on others. Is it too much to ask that you think of the family? I mean, apparently.
It's really low and disrespectful and a heartless and tactless way to behave.
It really is.
On April 3rd, 1995, only a few days after her death, Selena's burial took place at Seaside Memorial Park. In addition to her husband and family, more ethical fans honored the late singer by placing white roses as requested by her father on her casket. Her signature and bronze image now adorn the gravesite. George W. Bush, who was the governor of Texas at the time, even made Selena's April 16th birthday Selena Day in the weeks after her death.
Which, to my cynical mind, feels like a way to make it look like he cared, but maybe I'm being too judgmental.
I mean, maybe he listened to his staff, our daughters, who told him it would be a decent thing to do.
Good point.
However, as clothing, quilts, art, and songs were all made to commemorate the late singer, admirable radio host Howard Stern decided it would be a good time to mock her music. The League of United Latin American Citizens rightly managed to get his sponsors to boycott him, and a DJ from a Houston Tejano radio station named Bo Corona demanded an apology, and good on them. While her death led more listeners to Tejano music, it also became part of the discussion around the concealed handgun bill in Texas at the time.
As often happens, her fan base only grew after her death. When Selena's album Dreaming of You dropped months after her murder on July 18th, 1995, fans rushed to buy a copy and critics were eager to praise it. Around 175,000 albums were purchased on the day of release. She had dreamed of this album, her first to feature her singing in English, propelling her to dominate the US pop music scene since shortly after releasing Selena Live. This was something she only had a taste of when her song of the same name reached the 22nd spot on the Billboard Hot 100. Her dream was realized when Dreaming of You, for which Chris recorded the instrumental portion after his wife's death, became the first mostly Spanish album to go straight to the top of the Billboard 200 chart in August 1995 and remained on the list for 49 weeks.
So sad that this was after her death.
I know. But even though she never lived to see its success, she did witness 7 of her songs gaining the top spot on Billboard's Hot Latin Songs chart and 14 others shooting to the top 10. She went on to earn the title of the first artist to have five of their Spanish albums simultaneously occupying spots on the Billboard 200 chart.
A few years later, in 1997, the Warner Brothers buyout Selena, as played by Jennifer Lopez and as executive produced by Abraham, came out. With this role, which saw her moving in with Suzette in Corpus Christi while filming, Jennifer Lopez became the first Latina actress to earn $1 million from a movie and almost won a Golden Globe. That same year, the Quintanilla approved documentary Selena Remembered was released by her label EMI Latin and Mirador de la Flor on the lookout of the flower, or the lookout of the flower was installed miles away from Selena's gravesite, with the monument consisting of a bronze statue of Selena with the design of white roses held up by a central pillar overlooking the Corpus Christi Bay.
So I was curious about why Selena's remembered with white roses. It's apparently because Selena's favorite flower was a rose, and also because Selena had a recurring dream in which a white rose was tossed at her. She never saw who was tossing it, and she could never catch it. Then the dream would end with a white light. As I would feel about a recurring dream, it scared her, and some believe that she was predicting her own death, which I don't, but there you have it. Beyond that, there was also a video of a fan tossing a white rose to Selena while she was driven away from her last performance on February 26, 1995, at the Houston Astrodome. Like in her dream, she didn't see the fan, and the rose fell to the floor behind her while she waved to the audience. Because of these connections, a white rose was also featured at the end of the movie Selena at her family's request.
Her family continued to honor her in every way they could, to put the donations flooding in after her death to work supporting families, students, and artists. Quintanilla family created the Selena Foundation in 1995. They then founded the Selena Museum in 1998 as a result of the many letters sent by fans eager to have a public place dedicated to remembering Selena. There, they put Selena's red Porsche, awards, wardrobe, tour bus, a replica of the singer's recording studio, and other objects to memorialize her on display in Corpus Christi. Though more than 50,000 visitors per year have made the museum one of the most popular attractions in South Texas, and the city further honored her by renaming the Corpus Christi Auditorium after her. When Houston's Reliant Stadium put on a concert in tribute to the singer on April 7, 2005, called Selena Vive, it saw over 65,000 fans watching famous singers perform her songs. The live broadcast released by the Univision network earned the title of the highest rated Spanish show in the history of U.S. television. 6 years later, in 2011, Selena even received her own stamp as part of the Latin Music Legends series from the U.S. Postal Service.
But the road to creating her legacy hasn't always been smooth. After Chris Perez's book about his relationship with Selena, called To Selena with Love, was published in 2012, he hoped to see it adapted for TV. Those hopes were dashed in 2016 when Abraham sued him for breaching the estate agreement he signed with no attorney advising him after Selena's murder. That agreement awarded the sole rights to Selena's name, likeness, voice, and story to Abraham, and these exclusive rights have seen Q Productions, Abraham's company, sending fans and impersonators various cease and desist letters. The agreement Chris signed in the wake of his wife's death was upheld in 2018 after Chris appealed, and he and Abraham decided to drop the lawsuit in May 2019. Abraham would later write his own memoir called A Father's Dream: My Family's Journey in Music. And on the one hand, I completely understand why Abraham would want to ensure that his daughter's memory wasn't being tarnished by having the exclusive rights. But on the other hand, I wonder why her father, but not her husband, has the monopoly on Selena's memory. Not that I'm saying Abraham's not simultaneously honoring his daughter or doesn't have good intentions. I don't know. It just feels a bit odd, but I guess less so when you consider how he initially felt about the relationship.
I'll be more blunt. I don't like it. It just feels Like Abraham wants to make sure he is the one profiting off his dead daughter. He is the one that pushed his kids into music. Not that they didn't want to be pushed, but it seems like he is the poster child for living vicariously through your kids. He didn't find fame. Selena did. She died way too young, yet he is still making money off her. I think Chris should have been able to have his book adapted for TV.
As long as it was respectful, and I know the book was, it didn't stray too far from the facts, I don't think it should have been a problem.
Yeah, it's like Abraham wants to just say that his intent is the only pure intent, and also, he's the only one that can profit. I mean, Chris was married to her. I'm sure the relationship that she had with Chris is obviously different than the relationship she had with her family, and I don't see any harm with him being able to put, I don't know, his perspective out there.
Yeah, I think Abraham definitely needs that level of control, which could just be a false impression, but that is the one I have.
It definitely seems like that. Speaking of Chris, following Selena's murder, he started his own band called the Chris Perez Band, with which he won a Grammy in 2000. The award was for their album Resurrection, which includes the song Best I Can, a song Chris wrote for Selena, and I like that.
It's sweet.
In 2001, Chris married Vanessa Villanueva, with whom he had two children, but the pair divorced in 2008. Despite the decades that have passed, Chris continues to remember his late wife in interviews and social media posts. In spite of their legal conflict, on November 3rd, 2017, when Selena was memorialized on the Hollywood Walk of Fame with a star outside of Capitol Records, which is affiliated with her label Capital EMI Latin, her entire family, including Chris Perez, went to the unveiling ceremony. Her sister, Suzette, who experienced depression and suicidal thoughts after Selena's murder, received the award in front of over 4,500 fans, the largest crowd to ever attend a Walk of Fame ceremony. Like George W. Bush, then mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti, made November 3rd Selena Day to mark the occasion.
Even in recent years, the Quintanilla family has continued to keep Selena's legacy alive. When Netflix created a scripted series called Selena the Series in 2020, Suzette and AB were made executive producers. In 27 years after her murder, Warner Music Latina dropped Moonchild Mixes in August 2022, for which Suzette created the artwork and AB did the arrangements. The album contains 13 songs, including one that Selena recorded at the age of 13 that AB digitally altered to mimic the singer's sound when she was in her 20s.
You know I'm going to comment. So I don't love that. That isn't honoring her. That is profiting off something she did as a child to make it marketable, digitally altering voice. Nope. I mean, I just don't like it.
I do hear that. And it's not just her family who has continued to remember her. In March 2020, Selena earned the title of the first Latina artist to be given a place on the Star Trail of Fame next to the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. She had been the biggest attraction at the 1995 show when she gave her last concert for over 60,000 fans at the Houston Astrodome on February 26, 1995. The following year, at the 2021 Grammy Awards, Selena also earned the Recording Academy's Lifetime Achievement Award, reflecting the fact that she is still one of the most popular Latina singers and has now sold over 65 million albums.
As hard as it has been, the lives of those who loved her have gone on. Suzette married Bill Arriga, with whom she has one son. AB went on to have, oh my goodness, 8 children. And Marcella and Abraham celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary in 2023. President Joe Biden also honored Selena with the National Medal of Arts that same year, awarding the late singer the highest condemnation the federal government offer artists. And I like that.
Me too.
Selena's fans, bandmates, sister, and parents all came together in March 2025 to watch Selena y los Dinos at Austin's South by Southwest Festival. Only a few weeks earlier, the documentary of Selena's life was shown at the Sundance Film Festival and awarded the U.S. Documentary Special Jury Award for Archival Storytelling.
What all of the projects and honors that have come after Selena's death highlight is that her legacy eclipses her murder, which is encapsulated by what the Quintanillas and Chris Perez said after Yolanda was denied parole earlier this year. We will continue to celebrate Selena's life, not the tragedy that took her from us. And we ask that all who cherish her do the same.
Well said.
Yeah. Okay, everyone, that's where we're going to leave it today. Next week, we'll be starting our next true crime theme, female killer nurses, with the case of Elizabeth Wettlaufer.
All the sources we use for this episode are in the show notes below. If you'd like to suggest a case or theme for us to discuss, feel free to email us at terrifyinglytypicalpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us at terrifyinglytypicalpodcast on Instagram and at terrifyinglytypicalpod on TikTok. Leave us a comment below to let us know what you thought of the case. We'd love to hear your opinions.
See you next week.